Last year, we had our next presenter, Britta Schell. Yes, I feel the same way about her. Britta, you're loved out here already, so you have a warm audience. She shared some really compelling research at the time she was with MTV. And she has since left, and we actually have the honor of working with her at Pivot, doing some really fascinating research. So I would like to bring Britta out. I also would like to have Justin Graaf of Coca-Cola and Jeff French of LoudDoor come out as well, and they're going to present to you some fascinating research of which I'll let them tell you the story. Come on out, guys.
You should be honored by my lateness, that I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go ape shit. Especially in my pastel on my fake shit. Act like you can't tell who.
Shameless product positioning. It's in my contract. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Justin Graaf. I'm really excited to be here today to talk with you guys at Pivot. Thanks a lot for having me. And I need a clicker, by the way, from someone. I'm excited to be here representing one of the world's most iconic brands and then talking to you about one of the world's most iconic platforms. Thanks. Now, while you're all familiar with Coke, you may not be familiar with what we're trying to do as a business. So Coca-Cola operates in every country but 2 on Earth. Tweet me if you know which 2 those are. Don't cheat and Google it. We are the largest beverage company on Earth. And last month, we eclipsed 50 million fans, the first for any brand. We're also taking on a business initiative called Refresh 2020. And what we're trying to do is double our business in 10 years, the first time that took us over 124 years to do. The goal puts a lot of pressure on the marketing department to find ways and discover a never-ending way to new edges, a way to get ahead, to beat competition and to learn how to do things better. And we're doing that through what we call Content 2020. And if you were here yesterday, you would have heard my colleague talk about what we're calling liquid and linked. And if you haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube and just search Coke liquid and linked. Our entire marketing strategy is on YouTube for you to see. But let me summarize it for 3 points for you. It's about storytelling, content, experiences, and conversations. It's about spread, like a liquid that moves to all aspects of the globe, and then linked value for Coca-Cola and the world. My role in the marketing strategy and insights team is to help Coke discover those edges, new ways, being curious about data, trying to push us to the limit. Do we have any insights folks in the room, insights team members? Oh, a few good hands. I'm happy to see you guys. A lot of times we don't make it to these type of events, but I think it's really important for us to be here and help drive insights for social media and digital forward. And if you caught Paul Adams' presentation yesterday, one thing struck me, which when he was giving his advice for the room, one of the things he said was, take the analytics to the next step with Facebook. Use the data that they give you, that they provide out through development partners or through the API, and take those and use it. Use what's good and keep doing that. Take what's bad and cut it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk with you about today, which is using the analytics to drive things forward. So Facebook's user base has been active for 8 years. So if you think about it, that college senior who joined in 2004 is now 30. That geriatric millennial is now 25% of his lifetime on Facebook. Brand pages have been around for 5 years. Yet, with all that longitudinal data, nobody has studied the effect of a brand fan and their life cycle over time. So we wanted to look at what's the optimal use of Facebook, and how can we explore that? What's the pattern of fan interaction over time, and how can that help us gain an edge in the liquid and linked world? So what I did is I reached out to Mike Edelhart from Pivot, and I said, hey, can you help us with this? And I'm glad I did that, because he put us in contact with Jeff from LoudDoor, and we really did some amazing work. So let's get right to what we did. We took 1.5 million of our fans And they're part of an opt-in panel that LoudDoor built for us. And we got access to their profiles and demographic information so that we could identify different groups of them. We got the list down to 200,000 of our engaged fans. So we're talking about a huge data set. We segmented those fans based on engagement, demographics, noise, connectivity across 1 year of data. Now, this is what we found. Facebook engagement curve, what you're seeing here, is similar to that of many other engagement curves for TV, for online. And what you see is that starting on the left, we have high engagement over time. People's engagement goes down. Now, I'm talking to a room of smart folks, so I'm pretty sure that if we would have asked you to predict what the engagement curve would be, this is what it would be. But what it tells us is that there is a distinct window for optimal engagement. And our hypothesis was, what if we studied these people to find out what happened from the moment they clicked like to their length of tenure as a fan? What changed? Are there different groups of people based on demographics, age, marital status, all the different demos, to find out whether or not there's anything unique? Now, surprisingly for Coke, there was no difference. So it transcended demographics. And what we looked at was to try to find out if the different engagement over time essentially would make any difference for us. And the hypothesis was basically busted at this point. So what we did is we decided to double down and go look at it a new way. Now this is what we did. So we asked the LoudDoor team to come up with a new way to push the limits with the data. What they came back with and what you're seeing here is an unsupervised clustering algorithm. If you guys in the front get that, you can hashtag that one. Now, what this does, and if you ask my wife about these, she's a PhD in IO psychology. The academic world doesn't like this because essentially it's a fishing expedition. But what it allowed us to do is create a turning point of giving different metrics sort of a guideline for where the algorithm should look to help us understand the different segments. So we have on the x-axis the number of days that a fan has been a fan of Coke's, then the number of engagements on the y-axis, and then going back on the z is what's really interesting, which is the unique months that they've been engaged. And it's particularly interesting because we use that z-axis as a proxy for retention. So in other words, if they're engaged monthly over time, we consider them a retained fan. So now you're looking at the graph to the side, and if you look at these dark blue nodes, these are the really important part. They represent some very valuable fans for the Coca-Cola brand fan page. The unsupervised clustering did an awesome job of isolating these people, but what it can't do is give us an understanding of why they're unique. So we began modeling all different aspects of data points to find out what makes these folks unique, and that's where the big news comes in. But before we get to that, I'd like to introduce a concept to you that some of you may be aware of and some of you may not, and that's the idea of noise on Facebook. So think about it like this. It's 3:30 on a Friday. You bugger off for the weekend a little bit early. You come in Monday morning. You got 150 emails in your inbox. You're looking for that one from your boss that's super important, but it takes you forever to find it in all of those emails. Same concept's true on Facebook. If you have a lot of friends, you have a lot of noise, they come in. So on the left side, we have a high noise fan. They have lots of friends, connected to brand pages, connected to a lot of different things, and they're going to see more noise. This is probably, this user on the left here is who we probably try to target, most people in the room. And the reason is they have more reach. They can tell more of their friends, they can spread our content, and do a good job of doing so. Now on the right, we got a low noise fan. Less friends, less brand page connections. And this is someone we may consider like an unintended consequence of fan growth, someone who's probably not as useful for us. But what we did is we challenged that normal thinking and said, wait a second. What if the low noise folks are a better fit for us. And the reason was they have less fans, so they have less friends, so they have less on their newsfeed. So that can give us a higher share of voice, give us a better opportunity to break through to them. And that's when the new hypothesis was born. So what we ended up doing is going and testing across 4 different noise classifications. And the first engagement curve I'm going to show you here is for the high noise band. Similar to the one I showed you before, engagement up the side and their length of tenure on the bottom. Now, if we overlay the second lowest noise band, you're going to see 2 things. 1, it's shifted up, and 2, the distribution along the line is wider. Now, it doesn't look like a big jump. It doesn't leap off the page to you, but we're talking about millions of data points here across 200,000 fans. Definitely some statistically significant information here. But the interesting thing that we found, we discovered this group that have between 146 and 253 edges that are 1.5 times more engaged than the highest noise band. In fact, they're more engaged than the people under 146 edges. So this is a bit unique. It's a little counterintuitive because what this group does for us is essentially engage more and engage longer. And we started calling this our ideal noise group. Now, we're confident that targeting those folks is going to drive engagement for us. We know from the data that we're going to get longer engagement, we're going to get more engagement. But what we don't want to do is go after a group of fans who, because they have less friends, we lose viral potential. We don't want to forfeit viral reach because we've targeted this group with less edges. So the lure of influencers, I think, is pretty well known. In Coke terms, an influencer is someone who can give your content greater liquidity. One of our goals was to engage with our fans longer, but we know that noise is going to prevent that from happening. So we looked at fan connectivity. Or did we? So it's harder to reach a high noise fan. What we wanted to ask is it worth the effort to try to reach them, to try to break through? Intuitively, we all understand that there's going to be a high correlation between the number of friends you have and the noise you see because of all the content. And we wanted to test out that cost benefit. So think about it. You have more friends. They post more pictures of kittens, clogs up your news feed. And what we wanted to find out is it going to pay off if we target these folks? Conventional wisdom is that we should go after the highest noise person, but this is the test we laid out. Essentially, we wanted to see, for these folks, let me get one more in here, is their engagement going to be broken by targeting them? So we have the number of connected fans. So we looked at connected fans. Fans of ours who have friends who are also connected to Coke. So if you're one of our fans, you have friends who are also a fan of Coke. And the reason why we did that is it's a bit of a proxy for the way EdgeRank works. So EdgeRank helps to optimize over time whether or not you should see particular content on your page. And so that's what we did. And let me show you what happened here. So we're calling this realistic virality for the 4 different noise groups. And the math is pretty simple. We took, from our sample of 200,000, the average engagement of fans times the absolute number of friends that they have connected to the Coke page. And the data here starts on the left. I have this teeny tiny sliver. This is the lowest noise group. Then in the red, we have what we're calling that ideal noise band and just a small jump. Then a pretty big jump to the viral reach potential of the medium noise. And then this huge jump to the skyscraper of a bar on the right for the highest noise. And what that represents is their potential viral reach. So even though there's a lower engagement for that tallest bar, they have this huge viral potential. And what we didn't want to do is break that. So here's what we found. For this last bit of analysis, we went back to the full sample of 1.5 million Coke fans. And the reason why we did this, we wanted to look at those who were engaged with Coke, so those 200,000 we were talking about, versus those who weren't engaged with Coke, but were still fans. So in that year of data we were looking at, they had clicked like sometime before that, but during this year they haven't been a part of it, haven't engaged with the page. And when we separate those Coke engagers from the non-engagers, and we measured how those connected engagers, how connected they were to other fans and other friends, we came up with a noise to connectivity ratio. So this is a non-engaged user, someone who is a fan of Coke, but hasn't engaged in the last year. On average, they have 0.35 of their friends who are also connected to the Coke page. But if we look at the high noise non-engager, these people are connected to almost 4.5 other friends to the Coke page. So let me say that another way. Non-engaged folks, not very many of their friends are also connected to the Coke page. The high noise folks, a bigger proportion of them are connected. So this is a bit of a ratio for how how noise and connectivity go together. But when we compare the ratio for our engaged fans, here's what we found. So the new data that just showed up, in the bottom left, the 0.66, these people have engaged with the Coke page in the last year. On average, this engaged user had about 0.66 of their friends who are also connected to the Coke page. But now this huge jump to 21.6 is really remarkable because those high noise folks who are engaged with our brand page have this massive spike in the number of people number of their friends that have to be connected to the Coke page. Now let's think about what this means. Getting a new Coke fan in the high noise engagement group has the average potential to reach 12 times more people. We saw that on the last slide with that giant bar. But in order for them to engage, they have to have 30 times the connectivity to the Coke brand page. This reinforces how ideal our ideal group is. Because essentially, we don't have to have as many of our new fans coming in to be connected to the Coke page. So not only is our ideal noise group more engaged, but they're engaged 1.5 times longer and have a significantly lower connectivity requirement to keep their engagement going. We don't have to worry about that new fan coming in, and in order for that fan to engage, they have to have 20 of their friends also connected to the Coke page. I think it goes without saying this has a big impact for how we're going to deal with our fan relationship building, how we're going to use paid media to amplify messages. And if you bring it back to Coke's 2020 vision, this is going to help us bring an edge in a liquid and linked world. We're continually trying to optimize how Facebook is used, the data that we can use to get more advantages on how to drive engagement with our fans. It's going to lead to a lot of strategies for us in order to continue that building, which we value very much at Coke. Now we're going to take it the conversation zone, and we're going to dive in a bit.
Justin, thank you so much for sharing all these insights. And I think what we'll do now is just, in the interest of time, just jump right into some questions that we're going to talk through. And if you'd like, tweet to #PivotQ, and we'll try and get your question into our chat up here. So first off, Justin, what are we going to see from Coke in terms of how this will affect the fan acquisition strategy, this new discovery?
Yeah, for us, I think it reinforces that fan acquisition or fan growth is really important. We just eclipsed 50 million, but it's still really important for us to keep that growing. Because we have that optimal engagement window, those new fans that come in, we have a unique period to engage with them at a higher level, and that's essentially what we want to do. So we're looking at ways to capitalize on that and how we can deliver better content to them, build that relationship with them in that first optimal window.
Excellent. And building on that, that's actually a really good question too. How can brands more broadly in the room use this new discovery to really optimize how they're engaging with their fans on Facebook now?
Yeah, I think it's going to vary by brand. And you know, this is for Coke Classic, Coke Red. And so I think it's going to be a bit different. But it's important with any media platform and communication to seize the moment and take that opportunity of when we know folks are engaged, to have that connection with them. That's why you see a lot of CPG marketers doing cinema advertising, because you have that engaged group of folks who are in the room. So I think it's a similar vein here.
Gotcha. And how about you, Jeff? Any thoughts there?
I think the big takeaway from all of this is for brand marketers in the room. Obviously, what we did here is very fact-specific for Coke, and Coke is the world's most iconic brand, and they have to have strategies that are incredibly scalable and can drive really meaningful results in their Facebook presence. But if I was sitting in the room as a brand, I would be thinking to myself, what am I going to do that's going to transcend the way that my users are consuming Facebook? Facebook's roadmap is mobile. That comes all the way from Zuck all the way down. There's a big summit this week where we're going to head out to Facebook and we're going to talk about making sure that roadmaps align with mobile. Desktop may not be dead, but it's on life support. And these type of strategies that Justin and his team challenged us to come up with data on, these are the type of strategies that are going to transcend that consumption. And I think the things he's talking about doing and acquiring the right fans, if you acquire the right fans and you own the newsfeed, you own the method that you're going to talk to these people in social, and in mobile, whether that be through paid or earned media. Owning the newsfeed is going to be key, and I think that these strategies fit right into that.
There's a universal thing to this too, which is the creative has to be good. And I think that's something that can get lost. Facebook is no different than any other medium, which is you have to start with something people want to see, that people want to engage with.
Yep.
Now, it's the Dollar Shave Club. It's that story that they armed people with content that was worth sharing. And I think it's the same here.
And knowing this audience in a deeper and more holistic way is so empowering as we create that stuff. Sure. And building on that question, given what we now know from this new way of thinking about these users and their behavior, Jeff, how can brands really use this type of approach to think about their fans and their demographics in a new way?
I think what you have to do is you have to take ownership of understanding the demographics of your audience, and that's certainly what Coca-Cola is doing, and we see a lot of other brands that are doing that as well. And what I mean by that is everyone has access to insights, everyone has access to public data. There are tons of smart kids at MIT and Stanford that are iterating on the public data streams that are available in social media. But how are you getting beyond that? How are you getting to self-reported consumer data at scale? Things that have worked in the marketing world for years and years and years, things that are going to drive this forward. Because remember, all of this came from opt-in findings provided by the consumer. And you know, we're going to do a dinner later where we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the demographics surrounding the study and kind of understanding kind of where we went from A to Z. Because this was a very far-reaching study, and a lot of it was left out up here. And if any brands are here and might be interested in attending that, just stop by our little table out there and talk to our guys, and maybe they can plug you in. But you have to take ownership of it. You have to own your demographics, understand your audience, and again, to power those strategies that are going to drive you forward in the newsfeed. And I think Coke is frankly better prepared for that than their competition.
Excellent. Now some questions from the audience. Remember, #PivotQ. From Diana Haled. Is there anything that brands can do to bring back fans who are just completely unengaged, who have fallen off the edge of the precipice, so to speak?
Yes, is the short answer. This is what we call the first step of what's going to be a long process for us. Being part of the insights team, we have to be able to look at all the different avenues that come out of this. So this is really interesting. We had never seen this before. We've never asked this question before. And to have some interesting findings that show us that there's this opportunity for engagement in a nice optimal window. The second follow-up that we have to be able to do is think, well, how do we engage those folks longer and over time? Now, Facebook has launched paid media strategies. They have tools to help us try to re-engage those folks, and we certainly have to do that. And again, it comes back with, can we find those people who aren't engaged? What do we have to do to get them to break through? Now, one way that you can do that is to drive connectivity among their friends. So if you have a person who's a fan, and right now they have only one of their friends connected to the Coke page, if you drive that up to 5 or 10, what Facebook is going to help you with through EdgeRank is going to start getting your content into their newsfeed more. And I think that's really important as well.
Sounds like a combination of strategies.
Yeah, they're going to be, like with anything, it's got to be an integrated approach. That's why we call marketing at Coke as integrated marketing communication. It's not just one tactic. We got to go from all sides.
I agree. I think Justin summed that up really well. There are certainly things that you can do. It all starts with understanding why. Why are people not taking the behaviors you want them to take? And unfortunately, that's not often found in the publicly available data. You have to get beyond that. That's where you start finding the answers. And once you understand the problem, then you can try to solve it. The reality is, most brands don't know what the problems are. They have this overarching, hey, our users aren't engaging the way we want them to. Why? Figure that out, and then you can find the answers.
Excellent. Okay, and one from Jonathan Goldner, former colleague of mine. So since Coke is actually a physical product, you're holding it right in your hand, how do you monetize these millions of fans into physical buyers at point of purchase?
Look, Coca-Cola is, we're about engagement and partnership with our fans. And although monetizing it is obviously important, this is something that you buy frequently. It's something you get, I mean, you may have a beverage 10 times a day or however many times. Keeping connected with them, understanding them, and being a community with them is just as important as trying to say, hey, go buy a can of Coke. And I think that's what we're trying to do, which is learn how to keep them engaged, do a better job of getting content to them that they really value, and then using that to help drive the story of purchase consumption.
I mean, Facebook is a smart company, and there was recently, if you just Google it, Facebook just recently released a study they did with Datalogics as a partner, where they tracked impressions back to offline consumption. And there was a lot of good evidence in that Facebook is able to move the needle offline. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go take a look at that report. Then the key then becomes, how are you going to generate those impressions? How are you going to get in front of the users? And again, that's what this is going to do. Engagement is the first key to driving more impressions. More impressions are the key to driving action at point of purchase. So it all runs hand in hand. If you can win at this level, you're going to win in the store when they're choosing that or that other product that's a different color.
Excellent. And I think with that, we're out of time. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Tweet at us if you have any other questions.